Along the east coast of the United States, famous beach towns such as Seaside Heights, Jacksonville Beach, and even Virginia Beach are all known as popular vacation destinations during the summer months. The soft sand, bright sunshine, and warm ocean waters are all very inviting features to these locations. However, for a certain group of people, a different aspect makes them return to the beaches whenever possible. These people are surfers. Known for being wild and free spirited, surfers flock to the beaches whenever the waves are on the rise. In many areas of the world, such as California, Australia, or even Hawaii, great surf is a very common part of a surfer's life. However, on the east coast of the United States, there are often times where you must be very patient in waiting for the next swell. In order to score the best possible conditions for riding waves, you need big storm systems such as hurricanes or other areas of low pressure to be present. The wind generated from these storms is what causes big waves to form and be sent outwards towards the shore. In many cases, waves from these storm systems travel thousands of miles as energy moving through the ocean until this energy reaches the coastline.
Those longer lived storms create a swell that travels a farther distance, ends up having a little bit more energy, a little bit more momentum, and then that creates, for a surfer, a little bit more fun in the water.
On the East Coast, the most common storms that send the best waves to surf are hurricanes. A hurricane is a large, low pressure system that forms in the tropics. These storms are accompanied by strong winds and heavy rains that are capable of tracking hundreds of miles and producing catastrophic damage. Hurricane season in the Atlantic runs from June to November, with the peak of the season occurring on September 10th. However, despite the season lasting through these months, certain time periods offer more days of swell than others. Typically, from June to August, the hurricane season is relatively inactive, and on average, only 6 storms form during that time period. This means that with less storm activity, the less opportunity for swell. Surfers on the East Coast describe these months of the year as pancake flat. These months can have a few swells from time to time, but otherwise, wave heights are generally at their lowest points during the year, with wave heights averaging only 1.5 to 2 feet, which is hardly even rideable. As we head deeper into the months of September and October, we approach the peak of the hurricane season. It is during this time period when we will have the greatest number of tropical systems, and all of the ingredients that are important for tropical storm development are in play. These include ocean temperatures of 80 degrees or higher, warm, moist air, and low amounts of wind shear, which is defined as the change of wind direction and speed with height.
In terms of water temperatures, with how much our atmosphere is warming, how much our globe is warming, our climate is changing. The water being so much warmer just directly translates to more potential energy for these hurricanes. So whatever does develop may have a little bit more oomph to it, maybe have a little bit more strength to it.
Having a hurricane form out in the Atlantic is one thing, but for it to send great surf to the East Coast, other factors must occur. Some of these include the track of the hurricane, the size of the storm, and how fast the storm is moving. These criteria help surfers and forecasters determine how big the surf will be and for how long the swell lasts. Typically, hurricanes will track northward along the East Coast, eventually coming into contact with a general west to east flow of winds in the mid-latitudes. This forces these hurricanes to increase speed and continue recurving out to sea. This results in a swell that is very short-lived, typically offering 1 or 2 days of peak surf before the waves dissipate. Looking at the track of these hurricanes is another important feature. You don't want them to be too close to the coast. More direct impacts will result in storm surge and wind speeds that make surfing impossible and far too dangerous. On the other hand, if the storm system is too far away, that gives the swells produced too much time to be broken up by other storm systems before reaching the coast. Additionally, one of the most important variables we have when it comes to waves is fetch. Fetch is the distance that wind can travel over water in a constant direction. In order to get the biggest waves, you need to have a fetch over a large area, and with strong storms such as hurricanes, they are more than capable of doing the job.
Waves come from something. They come from a storm system. They come from trade winds. They come from a cold front. They are sourced from somewhere. And it's just fascinating how you could have head high, shoulder high surf all day, and then overnight the next day, when that storm system moves out, it's like a lake, and the Atlantic is totally flat.
On top of all that, there are even more local conditions that have to line up correctly in order to truly have a good session, including tides and wind direction. Pinpointing the right tides to surf typically depends on the local spot that you surf. Some surf breaks favor the best waves at high tide, while others at low tide. You can even have surf breaks that favor the tide transitioning from one to the other. In order to figure out what tide is best, that really depends on your local knowledge. Luckily, Figuring out the best wind conditions is a whole lot easier than nailing the tides. For practically all surf spots in the world, and especially on the East Coast, you want an offshore wind. Offshore winds are winds that blow from over the land and out to sea. These winds are sometimes known as land breezes, and for many spots on the East Coast, an offshore wind will be a west wind. That goes for many places such as New Jersey, Virginia, all the way south to the east coast of Florida. However, for the south shore of Long Island, New York, a north wind would be an offshore wind. These winds are important for getting a clean and groomed surface to the waves in order to make them smooth. This smoothness to the waves allows for surfers to carve up and down the face of the waves without having to worry about bumps and chop from ruining their ride.
Kind of helps stand up the waves. It gives them a nice posture and kind of brushes them off and cleans them up. And then as a surfer, that creates a very nice and smooth wave and platform to you to perform on.
Offshore winds also help waves form one of their most iconic features, the barrel, which is the hollow part of a breaking wave between the face and the curling lip. As a surfer, the ultimate goal is to ride a wave and travel through this barrel and come out. For East Coast surfers, chasing these swells takes a whole lot more than just looking at your local beach. To really score a dreamy surf, it requires surfers to consider a variety of variables such as wind direction, the track of weather systems, and even the tides. It just goes to show that when it comes to surfing, knowing the weather is crucial to figuring out your next session. Reporting from Weather World, I'm Brian, Michigan.